We have our, hard to say, hard to believe, our final panel of this incredible gathering of women leading regeneration. I just got chills as I said that. This is a very dear group of sisters, and I'm going to leave space and time for them to share who they are, but I just want to mention that, you know, we've been talking about soil, and soil is soul. Soil is the skin of the mother. The rocks are her bones. The blood is her waters. You know, we have to really remember to see the physicality, the livingness of what is around us, and to start to have that kind of intimate connection, deep intimacy. So I welcome Bethany Davis, Jessica, I'm going to say your name wrong. Chartis, I think, Karen Washington, Kelsey Scott, and Donna Kilpatrick to have a beautifully facilitated discussion by Bethany. Thank you so much for that. And I like stepping back and make believe like I'm stepping off of the stage. So you can take me down, y'all, and leave these ladies forward.
Thank you, Celine.
Elaine, just FYI. I know everyone's Elaine with an S.
Welcome. I think we're still getting everybody's spotlight here. I'm Bethany. I'm going to be moderating this panel. I'm a woman, I'm a mother. These are my two little guys. I don't know if you can see their little sweet faces, but I also happen to work for MegaFood. My favorite part of my job and my main part of my job is working with our farmers and asking them what they want and how we can help them. And one of the most impactful, like even transformative parts of being on so many different farms over the last 12 years that I've been with MegaFood has been experiencing human beings being attuned to a cycle and to an ecosystem, to how everything is connected and interdependent. And to me, it's been very invitational into seeing more of the divine feminine and becoming more of the divine feminine. So it's thrilling to get to introduce you to these wonderful women. And that's sort of what we're going to be talking about today. What is it like to be a woman who's in agriculture, who's in farming? And what I first want us to talk about, I'd like each person to introduce themselves, and I'll go around with the order, but to talk about what is your connection to farming? What do cycles and seasons mean to you? And what does it mean to be a woman who farms? Karen, can you start us off, please?
Yeah, you know who I am because I just finished speaking. But, you know, again, the nurturing quality that I feel I have as a woman, and to bring that into the work that I do as a farmer, to be nurturing, to be caring, especially when it comes to, you know, growing food, because growing food can be very extractive, and to be mindful that as you take from the soil that you have to give back, to be mindful of that, and then also be careful about how you interpret what soil is all about, you know, because people are talking about ownership, and I always sort of negate that quality of owning soil, owning land. Is how do you become a steward of the land? So those are the qualities I tend to bring when I think about myself as a farmer.
Awesome, thank you. Kelsey.
I'm Patiwashte, everybody. Tatea Akwalawi Lakotia Imachiapi na Kelsey Scott, Washichia Imachiapi. My Lakota name is Soft Little Breeze Woman, and my English name is Kelsey Scott. I am a cow-calf producer on the Cheyenne River Sioux Indian Reservation, located in the Northern Great Plains. I also get to serve as the Director of Programs for the Intertribal Agriculture Council. We are a national nonprofit organization that works to serve American Indian farmers and ranchers all across the country. For me, when I think of cycles and seasons, just in a moment of reflection as I was listening to Karen, I'm not only a cow-calf producer, but also a beef producer. We have a direct-to-consumer grass-finished beef operation. So the cycles in nature that I try to be very attuned with are the growing seasons of the Great Plains. So we have a very harsh on both ends, winter and summer. And then the sweet spot between both, we have 4 full seasons. Each season brings its own production demands and its own joys and trials. And in the beef sales side of things, it seems like that cycle doesn't ever really slow down. It's constantly about educating and informing and empowering the consumer and ensuring that they have confidence in where they're buying their product and making sure that I can supply the demand that they have. Beyond that, though, the reason I'm joining you from a pickup is I'm a woman in the industry, the nonprofit industry, helping others get their own businesses in this space and their own families rooted through agriculture started. And it also seems like that cycle never really slows down. So I think what we do a really good job of as women is being able to at least recognize that some of these patterns and production cycles don't really slow down or have the same nature in which nature wants them to. Nature has evolved to show us. And I think that we can bring that awareness into this space and we can really elevate the need for trying to design these things out to be more regenerative, more mimicking of the living systems that surround us. And in the meantime, we can do all that we can to share that nurturing nature, which Karen just so eloquently elaborated on, to really help to soften some of those realities until we can get this ship turned around the right direction.
Thank you. Donna.
Hey everyone, my name's Donna Kilpatrick. I am the ranch manager and land steward at Heifer Ranch, which is part of Heifer International. What we do is we work with farmers, mostly in the South, and we're predominantly a training facility. But we also really focus on production here at the ranch. So I oversee all of the agriculture at the ranch, and which includes overseeing and supporting. I like the term support. I support a team of 4 other women who are in management roles at the ranch. We produce at a relatively high scale. Just for some context, it's 1,200 acres here. We have about 300 sheep. We have about 300 cattle. We produce up to 800 pigs in a woodlot setting per year, and our poultry production is up to about 40,000. So this is a relatively large scale of production being done by a small group of women with not a lot of support. A few volunteers that come in. We have opportunities for people to come in and learn about regenerative agriculture, live at the ranch, that kind of thing. So please spread the word because we are looking for folks. Yeah, so you asked the question, what do the cycles and seasons mean to you? For me, they mean everything. It keeps my job very alive, watching and participating and observing the seasons and the life cycles that happen within the ranch. Always knowing that nature heals herself. I find great comfort in that. Like I feel like whatever happens at the ranch, be it a terrible thunderstorm like we're having right now, or loss of animals on the ranch for unforeseen reason, nature always heals herself. And I find that very comforting. And sometimes it's important just to step back and take witness of that and know that good will come. And that also nature relies on symbiotic relations between various aspects within that ecosystem. And it's very similar to the human relationships that we have on our team. Such a small team of folks, 3 of which have children, small children, and the various challenges that brings as we're responsible for taking care of so much life, both above the soil and underneath the soil.
Beautiful. Thank you. Jessica.
Hey there, my name's Jessica Chartis. I'm a postdoc at UC Davis. Did my PhD in soil and biogeochemistry. And I guess I stick out like a sore thumb in the group because unfortunately I'm not directly in agriculture and farming, although I would like very much to be one day. And not to own land, as Karen so eloquently put it, but to tend to and be a steward of it. That said, I guess I can speak a little bit to what it's like to be a woman in agricultural sciences and a woman that works with farmers and ranchers. I guess a little bit more background on me. I am the partner for UC Davis of what's called the California Farm Demonstration Network. It's a farmer-to-farmer network of information and resource sharing that really just tries to help scale climate smart soil health regenerative practices across the state. I have been a part of a project called Regen 1, which is seeking to find ways to encourage to shift the power dynamics between purchasers and producers and find ways to genuinely support growers in their transition to more regenerative systems. And since Kylie's here, I'll share also that I've been fortunate to be the lead soil scientist for Kiss the Ground several years back when they were first starting their farmland program. I was fortunate to help them set up their monitoring program, which kind of set me in that direction, doing that for a number of different organizations, basically working with purchasers who want to support regenerative agriculture and trying to help demonstrate or provide the evidence of the multitudinal benefits. And something that I guess very early on became very interested in or very aware of was that there was this very like laser focus on soil carbon, and kind of just another way of looking at the commoditization of something, a very capitalistic approach of just like, markets based, quantifying this amount of carbon that's changing over time, and not really taking the holistic approach of the potential for regenerative agriculture to impact ecosystem services broadly speaking, but also socioeconomic and cultural aspects of agriculture. So yeah, I sit in a very interesting position. I say all this, I guess, to say that I have this background in science, and I work with a lot of people who are very into rigorous evidence-backed approaches that kind of scoff at times at what they call anecdotal, as if that's any less valuable than something that you measure in a lab where you've controlled for so many things that it's not really practical to the real world. And so, yeah, I mean, I think I see the very strong masculine influence in science, in agriculture, and not that that's not a beautiful part of nature, but it's just one half of the whole. And I think I've craved community in the work that I do because you don't have, even the women who've made their way up in science, they don't lead with the feminine spirit. And so generally seeking that out, I think one of the reasons I connected well with Selene and really wanted to be a part of this project that she's put together here. But yeah, I think that just in general, I think seeing a need for feminine leadership. One of the things I love about soil is that it is this nurturing body. It's very analogous to the feminine energy, that it's fertile and that it gives birth to life, and just seeing that when we cultivate the land in this masculine energy, we till it up, we plow it, we wash it, gets washed and blown away, and and we degrade the land. And if we could lead with a little bit more of a feminine energy, I think we could do quite a lot to regenerate our land and ourselves and our communities. I've talked a lot, so I'm not going to talk about cycles and seasons, just to say that it's all connected. And as much as we think we're not part of it anymore because we live in this world with lights and cell phones and what have you, you know, we need our winter and our rest periods, and that's something I'm still trying to learn to do. So
Thank you. Yeah, it sort of reminds me, I was talking to a farm manager in North Carolina, and she spends more time just standing around noticing things than doing things. And it's really important to just stand around and notice what's happening and attune and look and see, kind of like, almost like a mom. Kids playing all over the place, just sort of like keeping an eye on things rather than, you know, getting really linear about what wants to get done. So women tend to take on a lot, and it's actually a disruption or disruptor to be able to really connect to the systems around you. My next question is, how does balance, another aspect of the divine feminine, how does that play into being a nurturer and both being a nurturer and land and animal stewardship? Karen.
So let me take off my cape, because, you know, we as women, we always feel that we have superpowers, that we're super women, and we have to do everything and take care of everything. And the cape gets heavy. The cape gets heavy. So I'm taking the cape off, because now what I'm trying to instill, especially my women farmers, is self-care. How can you care for the land and animals and the planet if you don't care for yourself? Hello. And so I'm trying to speak to especially women and young women. It's okay to take a rest. It's okay to stop and breathe. It's okay to stop what you're doing and look at the sky and the mountains. It's okay to say, I need help. It's okay to say, I'm tired. It's okay to want a massage or someone to rub your feet. And so I think we need to sort of stop wearing the cape all the time and let the cape rest for a while and be in tune to ourselves, because we can't care for nature if we don't care for ourselves. So
Beautiful. Thank you. Kelsey.
I don't know if anybody can say it as good as Karen just said it. For me, balance, it's an internal and an external reality, right? So it's not just about the balance of our own well-being and our own health that we're tending to, but there's the reality of the balance of external weight, or the distribution of weight being carried externally across, whether that be your team or in your household or in your community. And I think that often as women, we come into this space seeing that weight not being carried, and we will tend to put ourselves out of balance to carry that extra weight, because we strive to see our communities in this level of transitioning from existence to being able to thrive. And so I don't know, if I haven't gotten a chance to scroll through all of the attendees, I haven't noticed if there's any males in attendance, but you know, the only true way that I see women being able to be fully empowered from one generation to the next, to be able to be more attuned to their own need for balance, is if we also have that awareness take place amongst men. And we start to have those conversations. You know, we not only as women need to be more reflective and to embrace that nurturing nature and to have that self-love and that self-care. Our men need to be aware of that as well too, and this is an entire community effort that we need to make popular again. You know, we need to really deconstruct some of the myths that have surrounded this idea of 5 days of work, 2 days of doing work on the weekends and resting, and then jumping right back into it. And yeah, we all have to take off those capes. And I really appreciate that metaphor. Thank you, Karen.
Donna.
Yeah, I think this is something that I'm really trying to work on. I tend to keep myself extremely busy, and my wife is actually somewhere out there on this call watching, and I feel certain that she's glad this question has been asked, because my I don't take enough time for myself. And as I said earlier, we are a very small staff with high production. On top of that, we train farmers. And other responsibilities that go with being a nonprofit, having major donors visit all the time, or various things that pull you. Not only, I mean, the farming is a lot, but then there are other components. So I'm really trying to work on the balance aspect and realize that it really, like Karen said, it is really important. The only way to have a healthy ranch is to really, be healthy yourself, and to have clear thoughts and be organized. I find that when I am organized, if my office is messy, I tend to be extremely scattered. So even just, the basic things of picking up my office and trying to keep my desk clean, those are little tools that I use to keep a clear mind when things are crazy. I talked a little bit about our staff, and I just, we've got 2 members on our team that carry a lot of responsibility in poultry, our lamb production, and also our swine production. They both have small kids, as in one is 1-year-old, and then one of the staff members, Christine, has small twins and a daughter. And I'm in awe. And I'm especially in awe after Liz, my partner, and I just recently took on being the support for a foster child, and had a 7-month-old child in our house as we tried to work for 10 days. I've heard Will Harris say, "You don't know what you don't know." I did not know how hard it is to try to balance taking care of a small child with pretending like you can just work as usual. It's absolutely impossible. And I have no idea how, on days when Christine and Sam's children are sick and their spouses have jobs, how they pull this all together. And it's made me really aware of, as the lead of this, of the agriculture at the ranch, Heifer International works with women all over the world. It's something we really support, is the fact, women all over the world, about 50% of the farming that takes place throughout the world is done by women. A lot of the farmers that we work with in the United States are women. So finding supports, knowing that it's incredibly important to be able to balance your home life and your family with farming, which takes just such an incredible amount of energy. It's made me rethink things on our team, how we can support the staff, and how critical it is to have them here, have them fully present, but also be fully present with their families.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Donna.
Mm-hmm.
Jessica?
I mean, everyone has put it so well and succinctly. I think I just will build off what Donna said there. This is my worst trait. And we have this culture of like busyness is like a badge that you wear. I think also being in the academic world, just there's no time for balance. I guess the best thing I can use this to answer is like, maybe this is part of the need for balance, is like sometimes you just don't sugarcoat it. It's like I don't have good balance figured out, and I think there's a need for us to be more vulnerable and willing to just say when we don't have it together there. So that's what I'm going to say. The best thing I have going for me balance wise is my dog. And so when I'm not taking a break and I'm just going, he reminds me that I have to get up and move my body. And but yeah, this is a big one. I think we can't really regenerate, or we can if we take the culture that has got us into this mess with us in the attempt to regenerate, we're not gonna get there. So
Yeah, it almost feels like we're having a natural reaction to like an over masculinization of the system of agriculture, and there's a pressure that's here now that is scary, but that I also trust, because I think pressure is a big part of what creates change. And nature is going to let you know what's working and not working, despite your big ideas about how you want to get things done. And so when I just think about there's a season for busyness too, and that's true of being a woman in some cases. Like Donna was talking about, there's a period when you have a newborn. It's not a time for rest in a lot of ways, and you're in that cycle for a while, and your kids get a little bigger and things change a little bit, and you can even drill that down to a month-to-month experience of moon cycles and biodynamics and flow of hormones and energies over the course of a given month. There's just so many invitations all the time back into balance and these cycles. And what I love about this panel is that everyone's on their own path to becoming the thing that they experience as missing in the world. They're becoming it rather than blaming about what's not happening. I just see everybody is taking so much responsibility to be what we perceive as missing. I wanted to go around the panel one more time, just with an invitation to tune into yourself and see if there's something that wants to come through you. This is the last panel for this wonderful conference. And if you really tune into yourself, are you in touch with something that seems like it really wants to be said before we start to leave people here? And we do have time for questions afterwards. Karen.
I made 68 years of age a couple of weeks ago, and I look at my life in terms of cycle. I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed because it has been a journey. I have scars, but I've been able to reach that peak in my life where it's all about love and satisfaction, and believe it or not, I'm not religious but spiritual, to be able to speak to my ancestors and speak to a higher power and to be thankful for life. Life is so short. You're here on this planet for a very short time. People don't think about it. And so what do you want to do to make the best of your life? What do you want to leave behind in such a way that makes a difference in other people's lives, and not to live your life for somebody else, but to be in tune to live your life for yourself. And so I'm at a point in time where I'm very, very happy. I'm full of love. I'm truly blessed. And I'm at people's disposal now, because for me, I they call me Mama K, and I wear that Mama K title proudly because it's about giving back. But I'm in a happy place in life. And for you youngins out there, find that happy place of love and self-satisfaction and self-healing, because when you find that place, then you can give it to others. Like I'm giving it out to you all. I'm giving it out free of charge. I'm giving it out. So catch it, hold it, and keep it inside. So
Kelsey.
Yeah, I want to find that place soon. That sounds beautiful, Karen. Really what's coming through for me, and I think it's in this moment of reflection on what do I need to do to get to that place. And I find my language in my mind going to, I have to stop doing this, or I need to stop doing this to myself. And A lot of times as we're trying to correct ourselves in pursuing that balance or finding that place, I think we're really hard on ourselves, which also is not regenerative. We have to be very conscious of our language, and if it is breaking down the ways in which we view ourselves or we think about ourselves. And I think it's just very important that we're intentional in every conversation that we have with ourselves to be empowering and to embrace the fact that so much of the constructs within which we've allowed our lives to be formed had nothing to do with us. They were established by generations upon generations of people before us. And we can't hold that reality that we've been raised in against ourselves. So affording yourself that grace, giving yourself, freedom from guilt, and just truly embracing the desire to empower ourselves into the future that we want versus guilting ourselves into not being there already. This is not an end goal. It is all about a continual process. It's just a nonstop balance that we pursue. And even once you get there, as Karen is enjoying, there are still things that she's practicing to make sure she stays in that state. And so just wherever you're at on the journey, know that with every day you will get closer, and that it is not your fault that you're not already there, but it is damn empowering to know that you're taking yourself on that journey. So hats off to you all for doing that.
I love that. And even just being able to trust ourselves for our own learning journeys and paths, and that there's actually no right way to do any of this stuff. Great. Donna, what's coming through you?
Yeah, so it's funny, I was this morning, we have a Chihuahua that has a pancreas problem, and so it has a special diet. And I was making his dog food this morning, and the term or the idea of monocultures of the mind, like how we think about things, kept coming up. Just like I just kept thinking about it and thinking about my journey into farming, and how, I was born and raised in a small southern town with loving middle class white parents who were deeply steeped in the Southern Baptist tradition. We went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. And I did that all the way through high school. It was just part of what we did. And just sort of the monocultures that are created in our thought process when we're in that type of culture that's very linear, very, I would say, specific, very driven, and somewhat exclusive of people that aren't, with whatever group that you're in. And I was headed to a large university in North Carolina, and at the very last moment, I had been working at a summer camp. Someone said, "Have you ever visited Warren Wilson College? You should go look at it." And I was like, I don't know about this school. And okay, so we happened to be in Asheville one night, and I went by the college, and something about it really clicked. Like, they had this weird college farm, and it was extremely diverse, and everyone worked regardless of financial need. And I ended up at the very last moment choosing to go there and switching my course, and it made all the difference. I worked on the college farm for 4 years, and I found my tribe, and I found my calling in life. And so I think, it's important to sort of break down those monocultures that we build and we sit in our head, and to seize opportunities as they arise, because sometimes they lead to beautiful, beautiful things.
Thank you, Donna. Jessica, what's coming through you?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I guess I'll just say that I think that there's we're at a really interesting moment where there's a lot of potential for solutions in the world. And just kind of seeing some of what's going in the chat. And I think, you know, I'll just acknowledge that maybe this is because it's easier for me to say because I come from a place of privilege. But I think when we focus on the problems, like we just stay in them. And you know, someone wrote, I'm just sorry, I'm elevating what I'm seeing in the chat from someone, just that forgiving does not mean forgetting or letting things happen again. I think that's equally as important, you know. But I just think that we can become consumed with the problems of the world, especially because there are so many that are rising to the top right now. But we have X amount of energy in the day and in our bodies to expend. And I think if we can focus more on solutions and how we can engage in our little ways in our everyday lives, but also broadly in our communities, I think we can make a lot more of an impact. And part of that for me, something that I think that I look for and would like to see more of in the world is, and that this group is like a really great example of it. And it's heartening to just even be a part of this, but women supporting each other in the efforts that it takes to make the change that we need to make. Again, I think like we can carry that sort of masculine energy of ego and wanting to be the expert or whatever it might be. Even our organizations, our institutions have an ego of, you know, needing recognition and needing, you know, to be the one to go forward. And I think we need to transcend into something different where we see ourselves more as one. And that really, like, we can't move forward to the place that we all can envision if we're not doing it together. And yeah, I just again just want to acknowledge that I know for some people, like, the problems are very real and present in their lives, and so I don't mean to diminish that at all. I just mean to say that there's a lot of opportunity right now, I think, to make positive change. And if we can focus our energies in that direction as a unit together, I think we can get a lot further. Something else is just like, I'm going back totally now, but and I don't do this enough anymore, but I think the question around balance made me think of it again. It's something I used to do a lot more of, was just standing on the ground barefoot, you know, just connecting to the earth, to, like, you know, what we're literally all made of. And I think that was something that brought me a lot of balance actually in my life, because it's easy to think that we're so big and important, but it's like we're big and important. It's this beautiful, amazing thing, we exist, but we're also insignificant, and we're just part of this giant whole. And so, yeah, just remembering that there are small ways to connect every day, and there are small ways to do good and contribute to solutions every day. And even if you're not feeling like you've done this big, huge thing, or even if you don't get to take credit, it matters. So.
Thank you all. Chat's popping with some questions, and I saw some stuff coming through with sort of some other thoughts around forgiveness, and I actually really honor what I think is some of the anger that's coming through. And what I want to offer is that grace, especially for ourselves, isn't non-compatible with clean anger, which asks us what wants to stop. And that archetype of the queen with her sword, and yeah, making a lot of the changes that want to be made, just like Jessica's pointing to. And thank you for some of the other thoughts and quotes around the idea of forgiveness. The question came through around respecting our ancestors, and How do we do that when our ancestors betrayed us or were perpetrators of some kind? How do we honor our histories when maybe we don't have our values aligned to some of those actions now? And anyone who has.
I never look at my ancestors in a negative way, because I know the fact that they were brought here on a need. I mean, yeah, and not on a want, and that if it wasn't for their survival skills, I wouldn't be here. Let's face it, I wouldn't be here. So for me, it's personal. And I give thanks each and every day that they were able to survive, because I'm here, I'm here. They were brought here, unknown land, and dealt a lot of hardship. And through that, I'm here. So for me, I have a positive experience.
Anyone else?
I would love to share. In the work that I do, I get to work with a lot of Indigenous producers and a lot of non-Indigenous producers that are within predominantly Indigenous communities across the country. And what I've really found is no matter what type of trauma you carry from the experiences that your ancestors had, whether you're Indigenous or non, if you don't put in the work to process that trauma, it's going to continue to surface in other means, whether that be through the ways in which you bring your children up, or in surfacing within your own life and how you have a greater or lesser relationship with the lands. And so I think that first and foremost, recognizing that the trauma existed is one thing, but then also breaking that down a little bit and freeing yourself from associating and attaching yourself to the actions that had to be taken in the midst of the trauma that they were experiencing. It's always circumstantial. Context is so important, and we can't ever truly wrap our mind around the context within which our ancestors had to act, because we've never been in their situation. And I think when we start to really process and disassociate guilt with any actions that may have taken place, guilt upon ourselves, then we're starting to break down that trauma, and we're starting to recognize that there was action that was taken because it was thought to be what had to happen. It was thought to be the best path forward. And we can then help to shift our dialogue of what we're telling ourselves about the past again. And we can start to shape what our future looks like. And we have to recognize where the ancestors have come, how our stories have progressed since it was our ancestors writing the story. But more importantly, I think we have to remember that we are the ancestor writing the story for the generations that are coming next. And we have to make sure to be in a positive conduit between the two, as opposed to allowing that negativity to perpetuate.
Anyone have anything to add on this one? We actually have a lot more questions in the chat as well. What's the most important truth that women in leadership roles can bring to the table across industries, inside and outside of agriculture?
I typically tend away from questions like this, because most important is pretty definitive, and I think that it's always about context. But I think the philosophy of navigating questions and navigating problems that you're trying to identify a solution with through that living systems context, and really reflecting in any setting that you're in on how is this either mimicking or conflicting with the systems in nature. And having that awareness allows you to think through things in that really regenerative framing. And because of the cyclical nature in which we exist as women, we're able to resonate with that awareness a little deeper. And so I think that that's one of the most important things we can bring into these conversations.
Mhm.
Yeah, I echo that for sure. I would just simply say to bring your true self to it, and then to be deeply observant first.
Beginner's mind in some way, but really in touch with what your truth is and what you're here to do and what you're here to bring. It's great. What are new opportunities for women in agriculture to influence the current system? We've heard a bit about how each of you are influencing your current systems and the things you're thinking about and some of the challenges and changes. Is there anything that you would add here? And even if it's organizational or, less conceptual, what opportunities are there to influence this current system?
Well, I always think, and I think, my hats off to Jessica, because I think that there's other roles besides farming. I would love everybody to be a farmer. There, there are positions in agriculture that's needed, statisticians, soil scientists, there's other positions that we should think of, in terms of making sure, especially when technology is becoming so big, and majority of women lack the access to technology, is really, really important. So, yeah, I try to, when I speak to young women, is like, okay, I would love you all to be farmers, but think about professions along the agricultural system that we need to be at the forefront. And we're not there yet, especially when it comes to technology. So my hat's off to Jessica.
Maybe building on that is, I think we have an opportunity like never before to be, I guess, I don't know if it's the right term, but like Renaissance people, so to speak. We have access to, I think for a long time, people were encouraged to like pick a career and stay in it and just do that. And I think we have the capacity now to pivot more, to try different things throughout a system. And I think it's really hard to make change when you only understand one piece of a system. And so I think one of the big opportunities is like not to become so niche, not to just focus on one thing. Like even myself, yes, I'm a soil scientist, but I worked in industry before that, and I tried to work other pieces of myself, like creative side, and I tried to engage in projects that put me outside of my comfort zone so that I can better understand the system that I'm working within, and what like it's easy to go into agriculture, for instance, and be like, oh, this is what farmers need to change. But if you don't just like engage in dialogue with actual farmers on the land, and not just one type of farmer, but all different types of farmers and ranchers in different contexts, then you really can't be of service to them as well. So yeah, I mean, and maybe it's not fair to say a little bit there that like we should just pivot and jump around and take different jobs, because some people do need the stability and security of something that's is in a certain niche. But if you can't make it part of your professional life, at least make it part of your personal life. Like just be in conversation with all kinds of different people. Even some people might not have access to the internet, but if you do have access to the internet, use it as a tool to expose yourself to different perspectives, to different fields of study, and be a student of things that go beyond just your part of the puzzle, so that you can see how to fit in better with others.
One of the first things that I thought of when you asked this question is that we're all consumers. And so whether or not, someone has the ability to uproot themselves and change jobs, or seek an internship or whatever, we all can be engaged in regenerative agriculture by what we consume. So that's one way. And then the other thing is just, I think sometimes we had a volunteer at the ranch. At the ranch, we have volunteers come that are interested in regenerative agriculture. And this was a woman who has been teaching for 15 years and started eating grassroots products and fell in love with the products that she was buying through the cooperative that we help run. And started making phone calls. And she had to call and call and call. First, she called Grassroots, then she called Heifer International. And after many, many phone calls, she ended up talking with me. And I said, come on and volunteer for a year and live here and see if this is really what you want to do. She ended up being one of the best volunteers we've ever had. And I just recently hired her. She's in her mid 50s and decided that she wanted to pursue her dreams. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities out there. And sometimes, you just, like Lizzie did, she just kept calling and calling and knocking on doors until she found one that opened. So I think persistence and determination also is key.
Mm.
Yeah, and I would share that I think we're all on the paths we're on because at some point, some woman showed themselves to us as a mentor in this space. And so challenge yourself to figure out how quickly you can serve as somebody else's mentor. And whether that is engaging in local community events or working with the local school. But our young women need exposure to role models in this space that have a craving for this way of thinking as soon as they possibly can find them in their life. We can help put them years ahead of what we've experienced if we can show some of these different ways of being to them earlier on in their career.
Yeah, being the consciousness that we're calling forth in the system of agriculture, but being that in all the places of ourselves and in all the ways that we influence. Yeah, beautiful. There's another question here. I'm struggling to find a path that focuses on tending the land and our bodies, but feeling like we're in a system that we're working within, which is more extractive and capitalistic and patriarchal, and feeling like it's beyond repair. The question being, how do we move forward without separating from society and not completely burning it down? Yeah, how do we stand for something new while we're still existing in a system that still wants to change? Something new that's really something old, but certainly how do we stand for change within something that is still on the path?
I don't have the answer for this, but something that I get a little frustrated by, I guess, is like, people say that they can't, it's not going to be individual change, that it needs to be systems change. But what is a system but not a group of individuals? It's just like, the system sucks. I think we all can acknowledge that, but we do vote with our dollars, and it's not as easy for everyone. Different people have different means, but I think we just have to, there's a quote, I think it's from like Buckminster Fuller, but you just have to like obviate the need for the current system. We just have to create the world that we want to live in, and then eventually it will just be the thing that is. I think this idea of like burning down what exists now is a waste of our energy. It's just like, it's not even really real, honestly. It's just like a bunch of laws and things that someone just says and we feel constrained by them. And I think if we are constantly trying to fight against the system and burn it down, then we're just taking away focus on building the world that we all want to see. So I think it's individual decisions, individual, starting with ourselves and our communities. And I think also just like, it's really easy, and I do this too a lot, to like think that we have to make global change. And it's like, we just need to make change in our communities. We just need to be present and show up in our communities in whatever way we can. So.
Yeah, sort of like reminds me of the concept of sorting the files, the things we have control over and the things we don't. I know for me, especially in the last years, with a lot of the collective issues that I was really facing into and doing my work around and being like, this is bad. The thing that's happening is bad and I know better. And actually, I think we should do it the way I think we should do it, which is the same consciousness that got us here. So yeah, focusing on the thing I have control over, which is my own state of consciousness, and like being fully empowered around that has been arresting and challenging and humbling. Yeah. Does anyone have anything to add?
No, I liked what Jessica said about community, and the question and just this conversation makes me think of a question that I often get, which is how can we scale regenerative agriculture to feed the world? Like, how is this even possible? And maybe our job is to feed our community. Like maybe that is what we do. And then that expands to, we take these little nodes of community regenerative agriculture, and in every community there is a heifer ranch, in every community there is a white oak pasture. And maybe that's how it scales, not up, but out.
Yeah, chills.
For me, it's really inviting the people that need to hear this. I'm in spaces where they're like-minded people all the time, but yet there's a majority of my community that's outside of this, and they are affected. People don't even know what regenerative agriculture is all about or whatever, and yet they're affected by a food system that have been mistreated. And so, how do we set a table, an invitation table, that let people come in and make people, sometimes you have to be able to deal with your comfort zone, make yourself feel uncomfortable to be comfortable, and invite people that you normally would not even have a meal with, and sit down and talk to them about food in general and the work that we're doing. I can walk past people in my neighborhood and I can say climate change and they wouldn't even understand what climate change is all about because they've never been asked. They've never been asked to come into our world and sit down and say why climate change affects them. Or we talk about regenerative agriculture. I can tell you there's a person right in the Bronx and part of Brooklyn that never even heard of those terms, but yet they're affected by it. And so how do we loosen our guard? And like Kelsey said, the language that we speak has to be inviting, and it has to resonate with people who feel that they're outside this box. It's outside this box. We as women, that's one of, hopefully part of our characteristic is that nurturing, that welcoming, come in, let's sit down, let's start to talk instead of looking at people in terms of their problems and we're going to try to find solutions, and just sitting down and just inviting people in just to talk about where they are at. Like I said, from the very beginning, I want to know why the 21st century, we still have hunger, poverty, and homelessness. What is it about our society that we continue to spin our wheels about this? What are we not doing to invite people to this huge ecosystem table that we have, so they understand their part in the ecosystem as a way of finding a way for them to be part of the solution instead of always being fingered as the problem.
Yeah, one of my mentors is Tim LaSalle. He's also a soil scientist, and he actually is a Jungian PhD, and he wrote his thesis on ecocide. Why are we seemingly set on dying as a planet, and what's going on with that? And best I'm aware, I don't know all the answers, but the best I'm aware is is that we're so overwhelmed and we're in such like a survival mindset most of the time that we aren't actually available maybe on like a nervous system level to feel and face. Because I think if we really could feel and face all the impacts of our choices, we'd probably be making pretty different choices. And there does seem to be something that seems to want to shift around creating the right conditions with each other so that we have some support to feel and face and heal and experience and process trauma so that we're more available.
Can I just add one thing on like the issue of homelessness and all these things? And obviously, I liked what Kelsey said before. There's no like most important or one thing for anything. Everything is like interconnected web, and it's all complicated. But I think a lot of times we get like these, we get the medium like tells us this story that like someone else is taking care of it. You know, it's like we think the government will take care of it, or you know, some big philanthropic organization is going to take care of it, and it's like we have to take care of it. You know, it's not it. Yeah, I think that I think we've like, to your point, maybe because we're overwhelmed with so many issues that we just kind of like we are paralyzed into not doing anything. I think we think that it has to be so big, and it's like it's just the little things that we can do in our everyday lives that add up. And no one's coming to fix it all. It has to be us. And then the other thing that came up at one point is like, I get that also there's real issues with you know, people not treating people well all over the world. But I also think that like we all have much more in common than we do that divides us. And I think that, again, like, not to say that there's like some nefarious force out there, but you know, the 1%, so to speak, has done a really good job at fracturing us and making us just focused on infighting, you know, instead of realizing that like it's them that's the problem, you know, like and instead of like, you know, to the same point of why is there homelessness, and my question is why are there billionaires, and why do we still admire and like we, you know, they're like superstars and we look up to them. They should be in jail. Like we should be disgusted by that. And so I mean, obviously someone works hard, wants to make a little bit of wealth for their family, like that's fine, but there's no need for anyone to have that much money. And yeah, I just think again, like maybe I'm having a theme here of like of, you know, focusing on the problems versus the solutions. But I just think we have to start looking for the things that connect us. We have to start connecting to each other, and we have to start focusing on what I'm gonna use my favorite pun here, but we have to start focusing on our common ground.
Yeah, on sort of like almost a interdimensional, more non-dual state of mind. It's like there's no difference between us and anyone else, and everything we see out there like might be a reflection of whatever's not loved and understood completely in ourselves. And so really what there is to do is our own work. You're right, like there's just personal responsibility, and how do we want to show up in the world. We're coming in for a landing here, ladies. Is there any final thoughts that anyone feels like they want to say in order to feel complete? Seems like everyone's complete then.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bethany. Beautiful orchestration of this conversation. Karen, Kelsey, Donna, Jessica. The quality of your presence and your thoughtful responses. The chat is very much expressing how much was activated for us, and what a beautiful capstone for this journey together.